If you have ever been a foster child or a foster parent, you know there are some intricacies in that reality that are really not understood much by the outside world. Foster children have a really difficult time ever feeling comfortable in their lives. They feel as though if they like their foster home too much, then somehow they're abandoning their birth parents. On the other hand, if they attach to their birth parents too much, they feel like they're not really moving on with their lives. So foster children are stuck in the now, neither really being able to appreciate the past nor hopefully anticipate the future. And of course that just scratches the surface of what is a very complex and hugely difficult emotional problem. I suppose finally the only person who really knows what a foster child feels like is a foster child, and the only person who really knows what a foster parent feels like is a foster parent. But I suppose that having said that, we can all kind of imagine what it feels like to be excluded. What it feels like not to fit in to the situation in which we find ourselves. To be living an uprooted life, an unstable life. Because we like to know what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We like to know what we're going to be eating and where we're going to be sleeping. No one really enjoys a life of flux. That's how Jeremiah saw his people in the Old Testament. And that's how Jesus saw his people in the gospel for today. People were running hither and yon, stuck in the now, not able to enter into their newly adoptive home in heaven, and neither at home in the world that they found themselves. Jesus said in another gospel they were helpless and harassed, like sheep without a shepherd. Well, things really haven't changed much for us, have they? We still live in that state of flux. We can't get to where we belong until we die, and we have no control over when that happens, and we don't fit in really where we are. So we have to be where we are for now, and that's just the way it is. And we don't know how long this now will last. We are a lot like foster children. We know where we belong, but we can't get there on our own. We just have to wait. Every foster child knows that at one time he belonged to biological parents. He knows that it was that biological parent's responsibility to care for him. And no matter how hard people try to explain all of the logical, intelligent reasons for why that biological parent was not able to be with him and care for him and watch over him, he struggles with feeling lost and left behind and abandoned. Even if his head gets it, his heart struggles. Well, likewise, we belong to God. We know innately that we need to be with God, as our first parents were in the Garden of Eden. And He has promised that He has prepared a place for us, but for now we have to be in this alien land, this foster home. And nothing here is as it should be. And sometimes we are just heartsick, wanting to be there, waiting to be there, and we hear all of the logical explanations of why we have to be here. And logically, we can understand that there's a brokenness in the world because of sin, and that when the time is right, God will bring us home. Our minds get it, but telling our hearts That's another matter. It's a harder matter. Getting our hearts to fully grasp the promise of salvation is tough. Especially because we have to ignore Satan with all of his constant taunting that he's never going to come for us. It's a difficult matter, and in some ways an impossible proposition. But St. Paul comes to us in the epistle today and gives us some hope. We have no fear that Satan will have his way, and that we might spend eternity in the foster home, in this place of fear and tears. Because St. Paul lets us know that the legal battle has already taken place, and God won. And we were purchased. We have been formally adopted by our Father in heaven, and our brother, Jesus Christ, is on his way to take us home. We sold our souls to Satan for the price of a piece of fruit. Jesus Christ paid the price of his suffering in hell so that we could now be eternal citizens in heaven. Everything is prepared, and we only wait for transport. Like foster children, we live in that not yet, waiting on the front porch for our transport. And sometimes, while we wait, we intentionally disrupt our lives with sin. Because it's one of those head-heart things again. Even though we know that Jesus Christ has prepared a place for us, and it is far better than anything we have in this life, we spiritually grow insecure. And we long for what we know, what we can touch, what we can taste, what we can see, what we can smell. What do we know? We know sin. We know the sour, sickly smell of sin. And as putrid as it is also that comfortable for us. Heaven, perfection, holiness, paradise, these are things we do not know. And so because we do not know them, sometimes we fear them, and we disrupt our own lives, waiting for our transport to paradise. We live in between, in that unsettling time. But Paul promises and promises and promises us that we are headed for a much better home where our Father awaits us with open arms. Paul says in our epistle for today, so then, you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints, members of the household of God, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Christ Jesus himself being the cornerstone, in whom the whole structure, being joined together, grows into a holy temple to the Lord. That's who we are. Not abandoned, forgotten children like Satan would like us to think. We are saints, members already of the household of God, and he gives us his word and his very body and blood to empower us day in and day out to remember whose we are. And he's coming for us. And that day will come. And we will walk across the threshold of heaven. And Jesus Christ himself will look at us and say, welcome home.